If you ain't first, you're last. Oh, we ain't gonna learn real fast. There's no more running from the past. Oh, if you ain't first, if you ain't first, no, if you ain't first, you're last. Wake up every morning to find the same demons that left you so tired before.
I'm here with Ozzie Gomez of Galiano Cigar Room in Coral Gables, which is, I've probably spent more time here than any other cigar shop in South Florida. I love this place.
Thank you.
So, let's jump right in. When did you start smoking cigars?
Oh man, I smoked my first cigar at the age of 13.
Wow, that's not legal.
Yeah. No, I was a very close uncle of mine. He was always a big cigar smoker. And, like most curious kids, I wanted to give it a try. And, and at times it might have been like, hey, give it a try. It'll be a deterrent. And quite the opposite happened.
Yeah.
And here we are many moons later.
You didn't throw up?
Yeah, no.
Oh, wow. That's a long time to be in cigars. Did he give you your first beer too?
Well, let's see. Yeah, I believe so.
There's a statute of limitations on that, right?
Statute of limitations exceeded. Here, let's fix this. Cheers.
Oh, thank you. That's a good idea. Moving on, what did you do before you got into owning cigar shops?
Did a little bit of everything, for lack of better words. I was in real estate for some time. I was in law enforcement for some time, and I just knew that this was a passion of mine for many years, something I wanted to do. And I was very fortunate enough to have an opportunity by means of friends that have been in the business for a long time, both on the cigar side and on the spirit side, to be able to lean on them for guidance and support and really, a crash course into the world of cigars, which, as Carlito Fuentes says many times, it's really about the people. It's not necessarily about the cigars. The camaraderie, the atmosphere, it's something that you don't really experience in most professions.
I couldn't agree more with that. We just started this venture. This is going to be our first cigar lounge review going up, and already people are extremely supportive. And in all the other businesses I've done, it's not that way at all. People are just jumping on board, we support you, and it's great. Cigar smokers are great people.
They are great people. That's something that I tell people all the time. No matter where you are in the city, in the state, in the country, when you walk into a cigar place, you automatically have something in common. You automatically have something that you can share and discuss. And one of the beautiful things that I see in the cigar world is that you meet people from every walk of life. I think that's very important in life, is to have friends and acquaintances and mentors of every walk of life.
It's true. So, this isn't your first cigar bar?
This is actually our second.
Your second. Tell me a little bit about the first one that you opened up in Fort Lauderdale.
Our first location, like everything, was the first baby. We made some mistakes, and it was an incredible learning experience. And that was our goal moving on to the next one, and potentially the third one, is iron out those kinks and continue to grow as a brand, continue to grow as a family. That's something that, as the saying goes, it's not so important how many times you fall, but how many times you get up.
Well, that leads me right to my next question, which is, what did you learn from the first bar to this one?
I
should say lounge.
Yeah.
The first lounge to this one.
I think the most important part, especially going into a different demographic, is listening. We're in the business of listening. At times, you'll hear locals say that, Miami and Broward County are almost as if two different countries per se. So I think it's very important to listen to your guest. We're in the business of catering to them to come and have a good time, right? Sometimes people come and they may have a good day or a bad day. Our objective, regardless of which, is to make that day just better.
Wow, that's great. We should have that on a plaque somewhere. Come here to get better.
That's it, man.
So was there anything specific that you learned from the Fort Lauderdale lounge to this one that you're like, we definitely have to add this, or we definitely have to go in this direction? Was there anything?
I think that's a great question. I think one of the things that Cito and I focused on coming into a different venture, or different location, better said, was focusing on the fact that at times less is more. Sometimes you're eager to please everyone. And, at times, sometimes if you focus more on strategic partners and people that are going to work in a long-term partnership, I think that tends to cater to the guests a little more. So that's one of the concepts that we did here, not only in the Humidor, but also in the back bar, was we focused more on quality versus quantity.
I've noticed that you guys don't have the largest humidor here, but you guys have a great selection of some of the best in the industry. How do you go about choosing what goes in your humidor?
A portion of it, I would say, is again listening to the guest and their wants and needs. The other portion is relationships. We've been very fortunate to establish great relationships with some of the best in the industry. Just to name a few, Carlito Fuente has been not only a mentor to us, but has been a huge supporter of us from day one. Oliva, Padron, Espinosa, I can go on and on. I would say the level of trust and having a proper working relationship, speaks volumes. We're not the ones that have been around the block the longest, but we tend to do business a certain way. I think that most importantly, there's got to be a mutual respect and a mutual goal. At times, especially in South Florida, so much going on. And listen, let's call it what it is. In every industry and in life in general, you're going to have people that are supportive and you're going to have your haters. And it's very important that you allocate your time wisely. I always tell people, there's only 24 hours in the day, okay? Let's call it, for some, 6 to 8, you're sleeping, 8 to 10, maybe in our case, more like 12 to 14, you're working. In South Florida, you definitely have to account for traffic. So what do you truly have left after those 24 hours? Very few, right? So if you're not allocating that time to someone who has great value, something to offer, and I don't mean monetary, the value could be a good conversation. If you're not allocating that time that you have left over to somebody who's going to contribute something positive to your life, you're literally wasting your life.
I couldn't agree more. And that brings me to my favorite part about Galiano's is your liquor selection. Like you don't have like a bottom shelf. You don't have wells. You don't have a bottom. You like started from the mid level and went top shelf and then beyond that. So tell me, how do you go about selecting what spirits you brought in here?
Thank you for the compliment there. Again, I would revert back to listening to our guest. I'll give you an example. One of the unique things that we did when we first opened up our location in Fort Lauderdale, a downtown cigar bar, we initially started with beer and wine. Very quickly, we recognized by not only by our staff, but by our guests, and said, hey, if you don't get a full liquor license, you're not going to survive here. South Florida people like finer things. So what we did throughout the time that we were searching for a license and going through the process with the state, we basically asked all of our regulars and the guests that would come in, we went, old-fashioned, handed them a pen and a paper and said, would you do me a favor and tell me what are the favorite, give me your 5 favorite spirits. Give me your 5 favorite whiskeys, your 5 favorite bourbons, your 5 favorite vodkas, so on and so forth. And it was great because you made the guest part of what you're building. By the time that we got the liquor license and, obviously all of the spirits reps came in and they're trying to sell you the world, we literally came out with a bunch of little pieces of paper. They're like, what is this? And I said, this is what they want. So right off the bat, we got it right. because that's specifically what they requested.
Yeah, you listened.
Exactly.
And how'd the reps respond to that?
Hey, as long as they're selling,
Right? Life of a salesman. So, little fun fact about this place. You had a little trouble getting your liquor license here. Can you talk about that some?
Yeah, I mean, as most know, the city of Coral Gables, and I think, rightfully so, they're very particular on what type of businesses come into their city. And, when you're a proven successor, you can do that. So yes, it was a bit challenging. But most importantly, and now we're going on almost year 3, we're the first and only full liquor cigar bar in the history of Coral Gables. And we take a lot of pride in that. We want to make sure that we did something here that complemented the city and complemented its residents, and do something very tasteful.
So you're the only establishment in Coral Gables that serves liquor that doesn't serve food?
Something like that.
Wow, that must have been hard to navigate.
Yes.
All right, so let me ask you, going from cigar smoker to lounge owner, what changed with your knowledge of cigars? What did you learn that you didn't know before?
I would say a lot of humility. Being in this industry, you have the opportunity to meet literally every walk of life. And that's an opportunity that probably in other professions or in other industries, you'll never have the opportunity to do. So I think that that's something that we truly admire, and something that we truly do not take for granted, is being able to meet people from every walk of life. And so I would say that the humility aspect of it is truly impressive. It's truly humbling.
Were you not a humble smoker before?
Yeah, not so much. I'm sure everybody's heard, well, I only smoke this, I only smoke that.
Yeah.
I try to make it a point to smoke everything that goes into our humidor. So that way we're able to interpret and be able to, most importantly, pair to our guest palates, what region and what's going to be best for them.
Yeah, we're kind of like in the second renaissance of the cigar boom. Like there's a lot more people getting into it now, especially women. So yeah, there's everyone's asking like, what should I smoke? Because there's so many new people coming in to the cigar world that don't know even where to start.
We always tell people, I mean, we give suggestions and we try to do it based on their palate, try to educate ourselves a little bit better on what they like to drink, what they like to drink, what they like to eat. And we'll make suggestions. But as Cito and I always say, we get the question of what's the best cigar in there? The best cigar in there is the one you like. It's very similar to wine, very similar to spirits. I'm not going to convince you that you like a specific cigar or a specific spirit. Everyone's palate's a little different. On the contrary, our goal is to try to learn what caters best for you.
So that leads me to another question. For the newer smoker, what would be, a piece of advice you can give them, somebody that's just getting into the hobby?
A good rule of thumb, and we do this at times when we get new team members that come on board that maybe aren't as vast with cigars, but more on the spirit side. Aesthetically, at times you could look at the color of the wrapper, and it doesn't happen, 90% of the time. However, but if you look at it in a sense, let's say like a flight of beers, if you've never drank before, we're not going to start you off with a tequila, because then, you're going to say, man, drinking is not for me. Right? But we may start you with a light beer, maybe move on to an IPA, then maybe move on to something a little bit more full body. And cigars tend to be a very similar scale. We're not going to start you with a Maduro. We may start you with a nice Connecticut, and that way you get the feel. Now, your palate may then request a little more. If you're accustomed to having a stronger palate based on what you eat, based on what you drink, then we'll go from there.
So you wouldn't necessarily say then like a cigar from Nicaragua would be maybe not good for a new smoker versus maybe something a little lighter in the nicotine world realm as maybe something from Mexico or the Dominican Republic. The
region does take point on it, but in those regions they also have hybrids where they do grow Connecticut wrapper as well.
Have you had a chance to visit some of the regions around the world?
I actually did, and it's probably one of the most amazing experiences. And as many of our cigar smokers say, it's truly a bucket list trip to see just the process from seed to smoke, like the saying goes. And visiting these factories, visiting the farms, visiting the curing barns, being able to have the opportunity to roll your own cigar. I mean, it is truly an art, and a pretty complicated one at that. When you try to roll your own cigar, you find a whole new respect for these guys.
Yeah.
But it is truly a once in a lifetime experience. If anybody ever gets the opportunity to do it, I strongly recommend it.
So you've done more than one, it sounds like.
Yes, we've been very fortunate to visit more than I would say we're up to about maybe 7 or 8 factories now that we've been very fortunate to be invited to.
Were you ever able to visit the factories before you opened your lounges?
I actually did. And that was part of the reason why we made the decision to open up a cigar bar. I had an opportunity to visit a factory with a friend. Mr. Eric Espinosa invited me to Nicaragua when I was contemplating getting into this business. And he says to me, "Hey, I just bought a factory in Nicaragua. How'd you like to come visit and experience the industry from the back end and see, everything from seed to smoke, how it's all done?" And I was beyond grateful. I asked him if I could bring a friend, and going back to having friends and acquaintances of every walk of life, and I think it's important that to have mentors in life. So I invited a friend of mine, and he came with me. I obviously didn't even get through the sentence. "Would you like to go to Nicaragua too?" And he said, "I'm in." So we went over there and got to experience, the whole thing. Smoked more cigars than you could ever imagine. And on the flight back, he noticed that I was a bit, just sort of on the fence with the whole thing. And he says to me, "What's going on?" And I said, "Well, I'm considering getting into the industry. I didn't know in what capacity, and I'm considering opening up a cigar bar." So he says to me, "Well, what's holding you back?" And I said, "Well, just the timing is off and so on and so forth." And he says, "Okay, I want you to tell me all of the reasons why this is a bad idea." So I said, "Okay, well, my wife was pregnant to start with. I was in a different profession. Clearly, it's a big risk. And I went on and on to explain what I thought were the reasons why it was a bad idea. And that took me about a whole, maybe 5 minutes. By now, we're sitting down on the plane. So the plane takes off, and he says, "Are you done?" And I'm thinking, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much it. He goes, "Okay, now I'm going to tell you the reasons why this is a good idea." And that was the remainder of the 2.5-hour flight.
That's a lot of good ideas.
Yes. So,
What were some of the ones that stuck in your head like the most?
The very first one was the excuse of the timing is not right. The timing is off. And that is clearly what it is. It's an excuse. If you have the proper support system, if you surround yourself with good people, and you surround yourself with people that have your best interest, forget the timing. The timing is now. That's just an excuse. So I learned that quickly, and landed back in Miami, called my wife and said, I think we're going to open up a cigar bar. And she was extremely supportive. I then went to one of my best friends, Cedal, and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this." And I was really seeking his guidance. He's been a business owner for many years. And as we continue to talk about it, he says, "I'm in." And I said, I was here more like I wanted you to, explain to me a little bit more about business. And he goes, "Man, I'm in." And I said, I would love that. And here we are 7-8 years later on our second location, and potentially third locations around the corner.
Nice. What lessons from this one to the third one do you think you'll be bringing?
I think like everything, man, as you continue venturing in life and as you continue to grow, your goal is to iron out all the kinks, iron out, what can we have done better? And that all leads back to humility. I don't know if you ever read the book, The Millionaire Next Door.
I did.
So as you know, the title is very deceiving. But at least what I gathered from that book was humility. You know, it's a study of millionaires and, you know, and different aspects and how they achieve that goal. But what I got mostly out of the book was humility. You know, I read the book because I wanted to learn how to capitalize in up and down markets, right? It's clearly, I mean, perfect example, look what we just came out of, you know?
Right.
It was something, at least in my lifetime, I've never experienced. You know, we never even heard the word pandemic before. So it was a great trial basis where we had just opened here. And, you know, we get a notice on St. Patrick's Day, hey, you're gonna have to shut down your business, but it's okay, it's just gonna be for 2 weeks.
Yeah, we all remember that one.
We're what, in the 2-year anniversary of the 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was your 2-year anniversary.
No. We are now in the 2-year anniversary.
Yes. Yeah.
We were open less than a year.
Wow.
Yeah,
How heartbreaking was that?
Oh man, talk about. And again,
were you even like revenue positive at that point?
No.
So wow. So you weren't even revenue positive, and here they're saying you have to shut down.
Just for 2 weeks.
Yeah. It's been a hell of a year.
It was a very, very challenging year.
With the newborn?
Well, no, this is now.
Oh, that's right. That was
this is now 7 years later.
Okay.
But listen, like everything in life, you can choose to be a victim, or you can choose to roll up your sleeves and get it done. And that's precisely what we did. We said, okay, Cito, what are we doing here? All right, you're going to take this day, and we're going to take this day, and we're going to, you know, listen, to the extreme that I did a cigar delivery one day during the hard shutdown of COVID for one cigar.
Wow.
One cigar.
What are the margins on that?
Yeah, slim to say the least. But you know what? That gentleman is a guest today, and he never forgot that. And he was extremely grateful. And he said, hey, I'm losing my mind over here. I need a cigar. But like most people, he was on a budget, you know? So we said, hey, no problem, man. It's not too far. I'll jump in my car and bring it to you myself, you know? And he just didn't know how to repay us. And I said, listen, when things get back to normal, just do me the favor and give us the opportunity to come visit the lounge. You know, I'd love for you to take a look at it.
That's the kind of service that, you know, this industry is known for, and that's definitely what's going to keep you alive going forward.
That's pretty much what we hang our hat on, man. The reality is that, you know, it's South Florida. There's plenty of places to go. You have plenty of options. So what we hang our hat on is our amazing staff. And I don't say that to be cliche-ish. These young ladies and the gentlemen that work here, they put in the hours and they treat it as if it's their own, you know, and that's what we treat this like our living room. We sincerely do, you know, and you need to feel that way when you come here.
That brings me to another great question is when everyone like has a shortage of good help, do you keep finding these amazing people that work here that just like every single one of them?
Are you from South Florida?
I am. I was born and raised down here.
Yeah. As you know, that's a bit challenging.
It is. It's definitely challenging down here. We're definitely not known for our work ethic, but you just keep finding these people that are incredibly helpful, very motivated. You know, they're always happy to see you.
Well, I'm going to go back to, if I may, I'd like to correct that. We don't keep finding anything. We made a decision, and a good portion of our original staff is here. A good portion of it. We've been very, very fortunate.
What was that decision?
No one here is allowed to call me boss. This is a team, and we're as strongest as our weakest link. You know, so there has to be a mutual respect, because at the end of the day, our staff is our backbone. You know, and if we don't give them the proper level of support, we're all going to fail. You know, so I truly attribute it to them. You know, they're here putting in, you know, there are times where Cito and I are doing back office stuff, you know, and the one that's here on the front lines is our staff. So, and they have to be, you know, just as reliable and just as dependable, and they have to be, you know, just as helpful to our guests as if it were us. And at times they do that and more.
You and Ciro are the weak link here, because none of you have ever served me a drink. And definitely not with a smile.
No, man. Look, the reality is you don't want to see us behind the bar, you know?
No.
You got a short guy and a tall guy, and we're both, let's just say we're not aging as well as our wives.
All Ozzie, I really want to thank you for inviting us into your living room and introducing us to your family. And I would really like to tell everyone out there, like, if you're in South Florida, you have to come down and check out Galiano's, one of the best cigar lounges down here, especially in Coral Gables. Thank you, Ozzie.
Thank you, man. That's very humbling, and you know, I really appreciate the fact that you guys did this for us, and I appreciate the fact that you feel at home here. And that's our goal.